Good morning, Frontline Motor Pool. So it's been a while since I've done a video. I thought I would shoot a quick video on Jeep shovels, G503 shovels. I've been hitting the flea markets recently, and I have accumulated a number of shovels. There's basically three main types of shovels, and I seem to have found one of each. So I figured this would be a good time to shoot a video and show you guys basically some of the differences. So before I do that, I would like to discuss the shovels briefly. And I want to thank John Barton on Jeep Draw for a lot of his research into this topic. So essentially there's two military specs, mil specs, that govern Jeep shovels. One is from, I think, 1932, and it was revised in the middle of the war, 1943, went into effect sometime late 43. So basically in the 1932 mil spec, it says that Jeep shovels, shovels for the Pioneer kit, first of all, they didn't come from the factory with the Pioneer tools, the axe, the shovel. Those were procured by the units, and there's quite a bit of variety in what was procured. So according to the 1932 spec, the Jeep shovels needed to be a number 2 shovel, which is basically this style shovel, and it had to be stamped US, and it had to have the trademark or brand of the manufacturer on it as well, and those were the only real markings. So if you look, I have a few. So this one you can kind of see the best. So number 2 shovel, tempered, that's actually the brand name, okay? So this would be spec for actually a later war shovel. Okay, so once World War II kicked off, there was a huge demand for Pioneer equipment, and so the mil spec was relaxed a bit, so that the only thing that was required to be stamped on the shovels was number 2 and trademark / manufacturer, either or, of who made the tool. So it is correct for a late war Jeep not to have US stamped on the handle. If you're trying to do a close mod of an early war Jeep, then you would have US, or if your Jeep really was through the whole war, then either shovel would be correct. So that being said, and the fact that tools, Pioneer tools specifically, were acquired by the unit, there's a lot of variation on the Pioneer gear as far as the Jeep tools. So you can look at the shovels I have here, and if you just look briefly, you can see they are slightly different lengths, okay? All 3 of these are Jeep shovels, okay? And all 3 of the lengths are slightly different, okay? One thing to remember with the number 2 shovel, that's the design of a number 2 shovel. You got your spade here, you've got your basically hook here, we'll call it, and handle. The handles, there's a lot of variety in handles. There was at least 10 different style handles from different manufacturers. So I'm not even going to go into handles, okay? You see Jeep shovels that were completely painted green. You see them green with wood showing. The mil spec said that the wood on the shovel needed to be treated with linseed oil, and that was to protect it from termites and pests and wood-eating insects. So basically, if you use boiled linseed oil, you just keep coating it, and that's what I did with this one until it soaked up as much as it could, because this one, the wood was in pretty rough shape. Then eventually that linseed oil will dry hard, and you can either paint over it or you can use clear polyurethane and make it look pretty. It's really kind of up to you. Now, there are a lot of examples of period shovels that weren't painted OD at all. They came black. I've even seen some pictures where the shovel was red. So there's a lot of variation, and it was really up to, I guess, the sergeant of the motor pool and the unit on how they painted their shovels or whatever. Having been in the military for 28 years, especially the Navy, anything that moves gets painted. So it would be perfectly normal to see a shovel painted completely OD green like this. It would also be fairly common to see them in other variations. So one thing, when you're out there looking for these shovels and your Pioneer equipment at the yard sales and things, one thing you want to remember is that the deeper this hook is on the shovel, the better it's going to fit on the side of the Jeep, because it brings the spade out farther and lays the handle closer to the body. But there are some pictures and examples of shovels strapped to the sides of the Jeep that had, 6-foot handles on them. So again, this is unit procured equipment, and there is variation. Now, as far as what I wanted to show you today as well is the different types of shovel end spades on these. Okay, so this is one type, and what you'll see on this is this spade is one complete stamped piece of steel, and then the back part of this is what forms where your handle goes through, your shaft, but it also folds over and makes a little strengthened area for you to push your foot on. Okay, so that's one type of shovel that you see pretty commonly with the Jeeps. Okay, another type is actually a two-piece shovel, which I have an example of as well, where the spade part is stamped in one piece, and I don't know if you can see this, but this part doesn't wrap completely around the handle, but it actually comes in two pieces. So you got a top piece that's welded to the shovel in a triangle shape, and then comes over to the top of the handle. This one is stamped number 2, and you can see the manufacturer there barely. And then the bottom part of the spade is one piece. This is all stamped one piece, and this comes here. So it's two pieces of metal, it's sandwiched between the handle, it's welded right here on the spade, and there are 3 rivets that go through. Okay. One wraps around, has basically a pin that goes completely through. This one has a wooden handle that comes up the side rather than a metal handle. It's got a little bracket on the side here, some rivets to keep it from splitting, the wood itself, and some rivets in here that hold it together. Now, all right, so I went to get and got my 4th type of shovel, my 3rd type of shovel. This one was outside because I've been treating it with linseed oil, many coats. The wood was very, very dry, so it soaked up at least 10 coats of linseed oil. Interestingly, as it soaked up the linseed oil, the wood turned almost black just from all the hand oil and everything that's on this over the years. I think it's kind of cool because it shows use. So I'm basically going to paint the metal OD green, and then I'm going to just clear coat the wood because I think it looks pretty cool. This one's a pretty good example of an early spec shovel because of the stamping on, which I'll show you shortly. What I want to show you right now is the 3rd type of shovel, which is also a stamped one piece, wraps around the handle, but it doesn't wrap here. to give you a reinforcement place. So the spade is one piece of steel, and then it's stamped and it's rolled around the handle. It's riveted in a couple places. So this one here is a good example of an early war shovel because if you can look closely, it says made in the USA, taper forged, true temper. That's the either manufacturer or trademark. Number 2, heat treated. So this would be a really good example of something you would find on a slat grill, an early GPW or MB if you were concerned about something that's say early 1943 or 42 or 41 Jeep, and you wanted to try to keep all your stuff accurate to that time period, okay? But this shovel would be found on all Jeeps, as would all of these through the war, because things got switched around in motor pool and stuff. So it seems like towards the end of the war there was, it seems like a lot of relaxation of the rules, and it's simply, pure procurement. Having worked in procurement in the military, sometimes you have to go and outsource from what's on the economy and not necessarily what's in war stock. So when you have to do that, sometimes the equipment works and technically meets spec, but it's not necessarily stamped correctly and things like that. So in the modern military, we have NSN numbers, which everything is serialized, but let's say we went out on the economy and we procured computers and stuff. Well, those computers aren't going to have NSN numbers. Now, if we bought them through a government contract, they'll have NSN numbers. So it would be the same during World War II, where stuff that was in quartermaster stock would find its way to the unit, and it would be, for the most part, correctly stamped unless they procured it on the economy. Stuff on the economy may or may not. It would be functionally correct, but it would not necessarily meet the letter of the law for the mil spec. So anyway, so I showed you 3 different examples of shovels: early shovels, late shovels, the difference in the mil spec, so that you can look for shovels. That's really all I have to say about that. So as you go out looking for some shovels to fit your Jeep, there you go. So the length varies a little bit, but basically it needs to fit on the side of your Jeep, at least somewhat. And these are examples of shovels that work and meet the mil spec. All right, well, I think that covers it. Have a great day.